She leaned in to kiss me, her lips soft and almost gentle, as if nothing had ever happened. I held her gaze a second longer than I usually would, feeling the weight of the words I knew I was about to say. My name is David, and for the last 5 years, I trusted Emily completely. She was my wife, my partner, the person I shared every plan, dream, and secret with, until recently. I once believed that trust was unshakable. But then came the small shifts, the quiet excuses, the late nights, and finally the evidence I never wanted to find. It started subtly. Her phone was always placed face down. Calls stopped the instant I walked in, and there were hints of conversations she pretended didn't exist. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd been distant. Maybe I'd missed something important, but one evening, everything changed. I found the messages between her and someone named Ryan. Words that made my stomach twist and my pulse roar in my ears. I read them once, twice, 3 times, hoping some context would change what I was seeing. Nothing did. It was exactly what it looked like: betrayal. That night, I didn't confront her. I waited. I watched. I planned. I've always believed people reveal themselves if you give them enough time. And Emily kept acting as if nothing was wrong, smiling, hugging me, playing the role of the perfect wife. But I already knew the truth. I'd followed the trail, seen the signs, and uncovered the full extent of their affair. And then I did what I knew had to be done. I made sure Ryan paid for every step he took against me, every lie he helped create. I won't go into the details. What matters is that justice was delivered, clearly, without confusion. Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories and updates here on the channel. The next day, she acted like the world was exactly the same. Dinner was easy, her laughter light, her tone playful. And that evening, when she leaned in for a kiss, expecting affection, a reset, maybe even forgiveness, I held her shoulders gently, looked into her eyes, and whispered the words that would change everything. I know about your lover, and I've already made sure he paid for it. Her eyes widened immediately. Shock, fear, denial, all of it flashing across her face in seconds. I stayed calm, letting silence stretch, letting the weight of my words settle. In that moment, she realized she had completely underestimated me. The woman who had smiled at me, whispered my name, and pretended everything was fine, was suddenly facing the man who saw every truth she tried to hide, and who acted in a way she never expected. Her lips trembled, her breath caught, and for the first time in years, she looked powerless. I felt a strange mix of sorrow and vindication, the kind that only comes when betrayal meets justice. After those words left my mouth, Emily froze, her hand suspended in midair, like she'd forgotten how to move. I didn't rush her. I didn't yell. I didn't demand answers. I simply held her gaze and let the truth settle between us, like a weight neither of us could ignore. My mind drifted back over the last few months, replaying every tiny red flag I had once brushed aside. Every inconsistency I excused on her behalf. It had all seemed innocent at first. Late nights, she claimed, were meetings. Sudden girls' nights that never lined up. That subtle tension in her voice when I asked simple questions. I had trusted her because love teaches you to believe in the person in front of you. But trust, once cracked, spreads like a fracture through everything you've built. I remembered one night clearly. She kissed me goodnight, whispering promises of love and loyalty. It felt warm, sincere even. But deep inside, a quiet warning pulsed. a silent alarm I could no longer ignore. My quiet investigation revealed the truth piece by piece. Ryan wasn't some brief mistake. His presence was intentional, deliberate. And Emily's role was undeniable. Every time she thought I wasn't paying attention, she showed who she really was. Through messages, through small lies, through attempts to hide what she ultimately exposed. Standing there in the living room, with her struggling for words, I realized everything had shifted. I wasn't fueled by anger anymore. I was calm, clear, in control. My silence, my patience, my observations had created a pressure she couldn't escape. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" I asked quietly, my voice steady. She nodded, unable to look me in the eyes. A silent confession that her games were over. I didn't need excuses. I didn't need explanations. The truth was already laid bare. She had crossed the line, and the man she once trusted, who loved her without conditions, had seen everything. And justice had already been carried out. Ryan had paid for his part, leaving Emily to face her consequences alone. The room felt thick with silence, a heavy truth neither of us could avoid. And yet, I didn't feel satisfaction in anger or revenge. My satisfaction came from clarity, understanding that sometimes the strongest response isn't confrontation, but patience, observation, letting people expose themselves. That night changed something forever. Emily would never look at me the same way again. And for the first time in months, I felt something powerful, complete control over my own life. The days that followed were tense. Emily moved around the house carefully, every gesture hesitant, every glance cautious. She had always been bold, confident, even daring. But now that confidence had fallen apart under the weight of truth. I kept my routine steady and calm, letting her feel the full shift in power. No shouting, no scenes, just the quiet confidence of someone who understood everything and remained unmoved. One evening, she tried to speak, her voice shaking. "David, I can explain." I shook my head, letting her words fade. There was nothing to explain. The whispers, the messages, the betrayal, they said everything. Her lips trembled, her hands fidgeted, and she realized I had already acted. Ryan had faced the consequences, and now she had to face hers. I thought back to our early years, our laughter, our long conversations, the plans we made, the nights that felt endless. And standing there, all of those memories felt distant, almost unreal. The woman who once meant everything was now someone I could no longer trust. But I wasn't acting from bitterness. I acted with precision and clarity. Later that night, she leaned in again, testing the boundaries. I held her gently, my voice quiet but firm. "I know everything, and I've already taken care of it." Tears filled her eyes, a mix of regret and fear. For the first time, she truly understood that every action has consequences, and deception, no matter how well hidden, eventually rises to the surface. I didn't gloat. I didn't demand apologies. I let her see the calm resolve of someone who had been betrayed but refused to be broken. In the end, our relationship didn't fall apart with yelling or chaos. It ended with the quiet recognition of truth. She understood that I had been patient, that I had watched, and that justice had come in its own time. And I understood that by staying deliberate, I had protected my integrity, my strength, and my peace. As I watched her that night, I realized something important. Betrayal is painful, but it is also revealing. It strips away illusions and shows us exactly who we are. And in that truth, I found peace. I had loved, I had trusted, and I had acted with wisdom. And that was worth more than anger. It was freedom.